Hello and welcome back to another episode of Inside the Asperger Studios. Think you know what neurodiversity affirming support really means? Think again. In this episode, I'm talking with a neurodivergent mom and therapist who's been changing lives helping kids, teens, and adults find calm confidence and real connection. We break down what actually worked, what doesn't, and how shifting from fixing to understanding can change everything. It's raw, it's real, and it's one you don't want to miss. So sit back, relax, and grab your favorite beverage, and I'll see you on the other side. See you there, everybody.
I wanna believe in the truth, but only see what I'm shown. Got the freedom to choose, but can't decide on my own. Follow what the group is thinking, bottle up my intuition till it's popping up.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Inside the Asperger Studios. Today I'm joined with Holly Moses. Welcome to the show, Holly.
Thank you, Reed. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you on my show, so why don't we start off with the Nargle question? Tell me about yourself.
Reed, that's a good question because being a psychologist, I don't really have people ask me that question. And it always throws me off because usually it's the other way around. But gosh, I think growing up, I knew something was always a little bit different about me. I only liked true crime and psychology. That's it. That's my jam. And that's okay, but I didn't understand why not everyone else felt that way. I would do things to be social that most other people didn't. And Reed, you know how it's pretty typical that kids, when they're little, they start clubs, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I started every club that you could possibly imagine. And I had a fort building club. I think I was in second grade. And, finding these different ways to kind of interact with other people. And why was it so hard for me? And I didn't understand. And, I really struggled with organization and time blindness. I could never remember my locker number on Mondays. I always had to go get it from somebody from the main office.
Mm.
So there were a lot of things through my life that pointed that pointed to me being neurodivergent. But because my interest is in psychology and humans, and particularly people who are autistic and ADHD, that's what I always did. That's what I always knew I wanted to do. And I went through school, did all the things to create the life that I wanted, which I get to show up every single day at my practice. And it's in my passion zone, right? It's very exciting.
Now, you go by the title of mom, neurodivergent therapist, which is honestly such a powerful combo. How has been being both mom and to neurodivergent kids and being AUDHD yourself shaped the way you support your clients?
It's interesting because I didn't have a formal diagnosis when I started this work. And I definitely see why. I was busy looking at everyone else all of the time, right? Because that was my interest. So it definitely was exciting showing up for work every day. What ended up happening with my parenting journey, it's a little bit different than a lot of people's. A lot of neurodivergent people do struggle with chronic illness, and I am one of them. So I got very sick my freshman year in college, and I was in and out of the hospital. Reed, I cannot tell you how many times, like literally cannot count. I lost my large intestine. It literally died. So they had to remove that. And then a lot of my small bowel, lots and lots of surgeries, again, just so many things. And because of the severity of my Crohn's disease, because I struggle with a lot of history of pulmonary emboli, lots of episodes of it, so not even just one, pregnancy was kind of off the table. The chances of me making it through would be pretty low if I could get pregnant at all. So My husband, who is autistic, we decided that we're going to go the adoption route. And he was adopted as well himself. So I applied to different places. We applied for all kinds of adoption companies, international, domestic, everything. And I could not get approved because I was too sick, they
Hmm.
said, even though I work more than probably anyone I know. So that was discouraging. And then in the state at the time, you could not adopt through foster care because they just did not have enough foster parents. And we wanted to adopt. So that's the route we went. We were super hopeful that at some point we would be able to adopt one of our foster children. And we got a call one day, Reed, and I can't tell you what that's like to get a call after all the classes and all the things that you go through. We have an almost 4-year-old. Do you want to come and get him? And such a strange experience when you get those phone calls. And I was like, heck yeah, I'm coming. You know, so we dropped everything and ran to the Department of Health and Human Services and saw this little guy that had a lot going on. And he was with us for 2 years before we were able to officially adopt him, which was pretty awesome. And he's autistic, severe ADHD. He's got a lot of things going on. Lots of trauma occurred, unfortunately, before he came to live with us, too. And then we have a younger son that we got as a baby. So we got to have that baby experience, and we got to adopt him when he was only 1.
Wow, quite the story. Now, let's talk a little bit about yourself for a minute. You mentioned you've got Crohn's. Do you realize that those of us who are autistic are have the issues, the GI issues, which I did not know until I've been talking with a lot of my guests that we are more prone to GI issues than most people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's true. The amount of stress that is on us moment to moment,
Hmm.
to of confusion, of overwhelm, being misunderstood continuously, right? Being shamed, being rejected. It has such a massive toll on your mental health and your physical health. Now, for me, I think it was a combination of things. There were a lot of people that were sick with Crohn's disease in within a few blocks of me.
Oh,
So I
wow.
think part of it was environmental, because we were not related. And I do think that that anxiety is what tipped it into
Hmm.
full blown, massive hospitalizations and just all kinds of horrible things. Because that freshman year, all that pressure that I put on myself, because I always say, and and there are different ways to look at this, Reed, but in my experience, I've been working with neurodivergent people for 27 years now. A lot of girls and women, a lot of our stress and what we try to control goes around grades, food, and appearance.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And those grades, I had to prove that I was worthy. I had to prove that I wasn't lazy. I had to prove that I was smart. I had to prove that I could do it. And I worked myself probably into illness.
I mean, people don't realize what we go through on a daily basis, and it's not great. I mean, I never realized I had stomach issues until I used to have issues when I was a bit younger where I would eat stuff and it would just sit. It wouldn't go
Yeah,
down and get digested. And then literally have to force myself to throw up.
right.
And
I
then
have
I've
to do
had that,
that too sometimes.
and I've had that a couple of times. And I just and I went to my mom one day and I'm like, there's something not right. My mom's okay. I want you to go see my GI doctor. And now my parents went off on a cruise and they're not home. And I had the appointment. And I'm thinking to my head, please don't tell me I have to get a colonoscopy.
Uh,
and she was talking. So I go to my appointment, and we're talking, and I tell her the doctor my issue, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna have to do a colonoscopy. And I go and I get it done, and it turns out I have a mild case of Crohn's.
Ah,
I have what's called ileitis.
I'm sorry.
So it doesn't flare up as much, but I do have to watch what I eat.
Yeah, and there's EDS, there's POTS. I mean, there's so many things that we struggle with that are, I think, very related to
Yeah.
stress, just this constant stress.
I mean, you hit it on the head. I mean, our lives are different than most people, than those who are neurotypical because of the fact we're constantly monitoring what we say. We are looked at differently. We are viewed differently. We're constantly worried how society is going to look at us. You tack all those things on, it just adds a lot more stress to your daily life.
Right. I mean, one thing, for someone who might just walk out of the door in the morning or whatever, whether you're going to class or work, you don't know what's coming.
No,
Right? Like
no.
I get, okay, what's going to hit me next? And it's really scary, and it's hard to understand that unless you live it.
I mean, people don't realize. I mean, even driving is stressful to us. And I had a guest on who said she doesn't even drive because it is so stressful. And I remember when I first went to learn how to drive and I started driving, I was white knuckling it. I was literally squeezing that steering wheel so tight that my hands were white.
Yeah,
'Cause
it is scary.
yeah,
And
it
a lot
is.
of people are, I don't know, Reed. I mean, I'm 50 now. Before, people just expected you to get your license right away. And I find that a lot of my clients are choosing to kind of wait. See, there is nothing wrong with waiting until you
No,
feel more comfortable.
no, I mean, I didn't go for my actual driving. I mean, I didn't go for my actual test until I was in my late 30s.
There you go.
And and what bothers me is I wish in high school the driver's ed teachers had a little bit more common sense when they say something to a student. Because I remember I had a driver's ed teacher who had a broken foot. And I go to him, what happened? And he goes, a student drove over it. Now, I don't know if he's joking or not. Now, I'm scared because now I got to deal with him.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't know. It could be true. It couldn't be true, but then if you ask more questions, that might irritate them because that
Yeah.
might have been your experience in the past. It's really hard to navigate those moment to moment conversations.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the problems people don't realize is we deal with stress on a day-to-day basis. It's not because we don't want to, it's because it's part of who we are. It's how society looks at us, and it makes us more stressful. And I've learned that your head and your stomach are connected to each other.
They're very connected. Yes. And
And
sometimes I call the digestive tract, it's your second brain, essentially.
yeah, basically what I've learned is your stomach has got brain cells in it as well.
It does. Which Reed, I was worried because, I have an ileostomy. So, my large intestines is gone. A lot of my small bowel is gone. I'm like, oh no, what about my brain cells? What's going to happen?
But this is why we have a lot of issues connected between our head and our stomach is you throw stress. Stress is a trigger that triggers your stomach. You either binge eat or you feel nauseous or you wind up with other things. And one of the problems is when you have a child who's autistic, you don't have an instruction manual. You don't know how to do it. You can't go by what your parents taught you. And talking with a guest who is a psychologist when it deals with eating disorders, especially ARFID, is You can't force a child to eat something they don't want to eat because that's going to create more disorders.
I agree. And it gets really tricky because as a parent, you want to make sure your child has the nutrition, all these things. But if certain foods feel safe
Mm-hmm.
at the time, then presenting trauma, right, around food probably isn't the best way to go. So a lot of people I do work with struggle with food, and that's understandable.
Now let's talk about that. You've worked with hundreds of neurodivergent children, teens, and adults. What are some of the common threads you see across age groups when it comes to executive functioning challenges or emotional regulation?
Oh, Reed, we're going to have a second episode because I could talk about that all day. So, what I find, and I don't know if people agree with me or not, but like I said, I've worked with so many people. And the thread I see is anxiety, is
Mm.
confusion, is this miscommunication, this misunderstanding. Because when you're told, and I don't have to tell you, Reed, you get this, but when you're told you're essentially wrong, like you are wrong as a person, you shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have done that. What is wrong with you? You should be able to. There is this massive amount of shame
Hmm.
on the people that I see. And I felt it too growing up, and I still struggle with it. It's this anxiety and it's the shame and all the rejection. It piles up and it's heavy.
Hmm. I mean, and people don't realize we deal with it is along with stress, anxiety comes along with it. It's like it's twin brother,
Yeah.
so to speak. And anxiety can cripple us, and they don't realize that. And to give you a really good example of this is I have anticipatory anxiety. I've traveled through Europe, I've gone to school in England, and all the while I had to create a mantra to myself of everything's going to be better when I get to the hotel. Now I come home and now, well, a year or so later, I have a podcast conference and I'm nervous as hell. And my mother and my brother both go to me. It should be easy for you. You've traveled across Europe. It should be a cakewalk. No, it's a new experience flying on my own again to a new place I've never been to on my own. And it's that level of anxiety that just built up till the point I get on the plane. To even add to that, I mean, when I went to I had to have a couple teeth pulled. And I was so nervous up to the point, and my mom kept telling me, "You're not going to get them pulled right away. You got to go for an evaluation." In my mind, I kept saying, "No, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. They're going to do it." I was nervous. My hands were all sweaty and cold. We get to the dentist's office, and I go up to the woman behind the desk, and I'm like, "Is he gonna pull my teeth today, or how's he gonna do it?" She's like, "Oh, honey, he's not gonna do it today. They gotta first look at your teeth and figure out what to do first." And then all of a sudden, my anxiety levels just dropped and I felt better. And my mom's like, "See, I told you." And it's that people don't realize we build this anxiety wall up so high that it takes forever to climb and get over it.
And you were recently on my podcast, the
Mhm.
Autism ADHD podcast, and then Autism ADHD TV on YouTube. And Reed, I loved that conversation. And we were talking about that survival. And that's what
Yeah.
I think about it is. It's not, there's nothing to worry about. You know how we say that, or I'm sorry, I don't say that and you say that, but people will tell us that. There's nothing to worry about. You're worried about nothing. Well, my response would be, that's not really true. There's always something, and you
Yeah.
don't know what's coming. Even if you think you know what's coming, you think you have an idea about it, you don't truly know. So your body is kind of trying to protect you
Hmm.
because it's not 100% sure. And having people tell you it shouldn't be a problem just minimizes your experience.
I mean, people don't realize the fact that when you're autistic with ADHD, you have a million, your mind doesn't focus on one little scenario.
Mm-mm.
We think outside of the box. So we got a gives, and you t tack in everything we watch on the TV and hear on the news, and it's all of a sudden you have 1,000 different scenarios going through your head. Is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? And it just builds up that and anxiety to the point to where nothing happens and you feel better, but up to that point, you're a mess.
Well, and I think that's a good point you were saying earlier too. When your family, well, this should be easy for you. I mean, you've done it before. All because someone has done it before doesn't always make it easier when you do it again in the future.
I mean, it's so true. I mean, things change, outcomes change. I mean, yeah, I had hiccups traveling, but it still was that nervous point of waiting till I boarded the plane before things settled.
Mhm.
Now, one of the things I love about you is how you focus on collaboration, not just with your clients, but also with your families. Can you talk about why that piece is so important, especially when working with children and teens?
When I started out in my 20s, right,
Mhm.
like early 20s, everything I was learning about psychology, about um, doing therapy with kids is basically telling them to do stuff. You need to get them to do this or, get them to do that. And I remember thinking, like, that just doesn't seem right to me. It doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel right to me to tell someone their thought is wrong. And I just thought a lot about that and noticing even as a child myself when I was that age, what if someone just listened to me?
So
What if
true.
someone heard what I was going through? What if somebody was open to even acknowledging that I'm having a feeling about this? So many times I was hearing, we've tried so many therapists, we've tried so many therapists. No one's ever been able to get my child to do this or stop this. To me, that's not the goal. To me, is what is getting in the way of this child having a full and meaningful life, or this teen or this adult. When we step back with more understanding and hear what's actually happening, then we can figure out how to move forward. But if you're just doing something to a person, it's invalidating to them. You're almost saying you're not a person, just do what we say. And I say this all the time, Reed. Neurodivergent people are already more vulnerable.
Mhm.
So we grow up like you should listen. Something I heard was kids are to be seen, not heard, right? So you're this, you're that, you do all these things wrong. And when you try to say how you're feeling, you're being disrespectful, right? You shouldn't question me, just do what I say. So no wonder we're all so much more vulnerable. So we have to do it different, Reed. We need to find out what are the whys behind someone's experience and help them and walk with them on their journey in a way that works best for them instead of just trying to get them to do something. And when they don't do it, they get in trouble.
Mhm. So interesting is, I mean, you're so right, is we people don't listen to us. They don't realize what we're going through. It's do this, you'll be right, you'll be okay. No, we won't be okay because our minds are traveling at 1,000 miles a minute and there are no breaks. And to quote one of my favorite ADHD professionals, Dr. Ned Hallowell, having ADHD is like having a Ferrari with bicycle brakes. You could be driving, your mind is going so fast, you can't slow it down. And people know this because when your mind, when you have thoughts going through your head, it's you can't stop them. It's just constantly. I mean, I've talked with many people who've come up with different methods to write thoughts down, put them away, or deal with them, or let's let them go. But we're constantly thinking. There are too many thoughts going through our head.
I kind of think of it almost, the old time Star Wars, right?
Mhm.
Like you're going through the galaxy and all these lights, you're on hyperspeed. That's what I feel like my brain is similar to that. Oh, just let it go. No, it doesn't really
No,
work
you
like
can't.
that.
No.
So I
Or-
feel like you have to collaborate with the person and see how they experience the world and hear them to help.
I mean, I would love to put somebody in my shoes and say, okay, you really think it's that easy to
Yeah, let's
stop?
see you do it.
Let's see. Imagine you get a million thoughts going through your mind in 1 second, and you just can't choose one, and you want to keep going on with your day. Try it.
Try it. Let's see
You're gonna
what
knock
works out
yourself
for
out.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that is really tough too, because we have this internalized ableism that we don't even realize. And I was giving myself a hard time just the other day. Oh, all these other people, they are doing this with their podcast, or they're, making this and creating this. And it's hard for me to stay with something before I get completely yanked into something else. And what is really hard is you don't understand that. And then I should have gotten that done. Look at them, look what they're doing, and this massive comparison. And why can't I? Instead of how does my brain work? What does my body and brain need? It definitely doesn't need any more shame. I'll tell
No.
you that. I don't need to add to it myself, right? So we get better and better at catching ourselves and saying, where did this should be come from? And usually it's been there because that's what we've been taught and that's what we've seen.
I mean, it's like when you're talking to someone and you say something wrong to them and they go, why didn't you stop and think about that? And it's like, do you realize how hard it is to stop and think about something? Our mind, we have a million thoughts going through our head at a time. And for to stop at one thought, when you have no filter, it's hard.
Yeah.
And then you tack on the fact that we're constantly monitoring everything that goes through your head. It
It is
doubles that.
incredible amount of effort. And I talk to my clients about this all the time, right? There's so much effort that goes into communicating. And what's lovely, Reed, about being in my office is you can say whatever you want. There's no wrong thing to say.
Yeah.
I think that's so important to be able to have those safe people in those safe spaces. Because when you're scared, you're going to say the wrong thing all the time. That piles on more of that shame. Why did you do that? That was rude.
Mhm.
That was disrespectful. And I think a lot of your listeners are probably shaking their heads right now, like, yeah, we've heard that too. That's been my experience. I remember being in high school and people thought I was stuck up.
Oh,
And it was interesting the shift. And now, I can look back and understand it. Is I would say anything that came out of into my head, I would say out loud,
mm.
which caught people off guard. They weren't sure how to respond. They got upset with me, whatever that is. So then the only logical thing I could do, Reed, is just not talk, right? It wasn't working. People were mad at me. So I'm just going to not talk. Well, if you don't talk, then you're stuck up. So
Mm.
it was really hard. It's like, what do you do with this? And I'm glad that, I get to do the work I do so I can help people through this so they can understand themselves more and be able to communicate what they need in the way they need it.
That kind of reminds me of a situation I had in high school. I had this one guy go to me one day. He's like, dude, he goes, are you gay? I'm like, no. He's like, prove it. Slap her in the ass. And the girl goes, you slap me in the ass, I'll deck you. And I'm like, You're putting
What do
me
you
between
do?
you. I'm like, one way I'm either this and one way I'm going to wind up with a black eye. No, I'm not going to do either. And I just turned around and walked away. I'm like, you're putting me between either disrespecting somebody or I'm proving one thing about myself. And it's like, what do you want me to do? I mean, in high school, I never knew I was autistic. I never knew. I was trying to be somebody I wasn't. The cool kids kind of cling to me because I pretended to be cool. And it wasn't who I was at the end. And when I graduated, it was like this huge weight just dropped. And I'm like, oh. And then I had a similar situation when I went away to college for the first time. I got targeted as being gay. And my room was sabotaged. People would put shaving cream on my doors. They would penny me in my room, which means you can't open your door. I'd have to call my resident advisor and have him come in and knock the coins out so I can open my door. And it just got to the point where I'm like, I'm in my 30s and I'm dealing with this now? No. And I just told my mom, I'm not ready for college at this time. I went for my degree online, got my bachelor's, and then 4 years later, I went away for my master's. It was a whole other world. Nobody was picking on anybody. There weren't no cliques. There were nobody. Everybody, it was like starting over and it felt freeing.
I kind of think of that. I'm not sure what your feeling is about. I got my air dry clay, like I fidget with constantly. The I think in graduate school is when I hear like people that go to graduate school, because typically you're going to study what you love,
Yeah,
right? And so then you have similar interests, obviously, to the people in your program. There's not that many,
yeah. Classes
right?
were small. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's almost becomes a place where, depending on who's in your cohort and your professors and all the things, but it almost becomes the first time for a lot of people that they feel like they can be more
yeah.
themselves, right?
I mean, what's funny is I wasn't friends with my classmates. I got I was friendly with my professors. I talked with them, get asked them for help, but I was more outgoing with my society friends
Mm.
because I was part of the Hogwarts Society, which I'm a huge
Oh,
fan of.
okay.
And the house I got sorted into was my family, my friends. And I talk about this in my book a lot, is at the very end, I didn't know who my true friends were until the very end. And everyone stopped talking to me except for two people. One was my friend from society, and one was a friend from my graduate society. And they became my best friends to this day, and I keep in touch with them off and on.
I love that for you. Not that all those people dropped off, but I do say that when you have your people,
Hmm.
that's what matters,
Yeah.
because it can be real lonely when you're masking and you're stressed and you're
Oh, yeah.
just trying to be like everyone else. Because believe me, I tried it, you tried it. It's lonely when you could be surrounded by people.
Yeah.
You can be
I mean,
lonely.
one of the best stories was after I graduated, I was talking with a friend, and out of the blue, she goes, "Can I ask you a personal question?" I'm like, "Sure." She's like, "Are you autistic?" And I was thrown back, and I'm like, "How did you pick that up?" She's like, "Well, I'm in a psychology class, and one of my things is I'm working with kids who are younger, who are autistic, and you have a lot of their traits. Being over friendly, being talkative, not knowing what to say. And you just picked, I'm like, she's like, are you doing anything about it? And I'm like, not really, but it means a lot that you understand. And then my other friend, my good one, she's like, I didn't know you were autistic till the very end when you told me. I was able to be myself. And no one questioned me. No one questioned me being goofy or stimming or anything like that. I was able to enjoy myself.
Oh my goodness. And I think people typically feel that way. I don't get that. I don't know how that's possible that people just feel included and just that's just what happens for them. That just is amazing to me that that's even a thing. But for us to be able to find those people, even if it's one person,
Yeah.
right? That's amazing. That's a beautiful thing where you don't have to be scared all the time. You don't have to be worried, am I going to say this wrong or I'm going to do this wrong? And that's more peace,
Hmm.
I think.
I mean, the only time my autism ever came out is all of a sudden I started mimicking the English accent because I was in England. And no one said anything until one of my classmates was trying to help me out, and he goes, "Are you mimicking me?" I'm like, "No, it just happens. If it's offensive, I'm sorry. I can't stop it. It's just something that happens." And he's like, "Okay."
I love that. I love that. And there is something really cool, again, like you said, to just say what it is, because that is common for autistic people. And it's not a conscious thing. Like you don't wake up one morning and say, I think I'm going to start talking in an English accent. It's not usually like that. It's you
No.
is you pick that up, especially if that's who you're around, and you mirror without even intending to. And there's
Mhm.
nothing malicious behind it. It's just what happens. And I love the response that he gave you. That's fantastic.
Now, I want to circle back. I mean, we were talking about anxiety and we talked about stress, but we didn't talk about its other brother, depression. And often it shows up differently in neurodivergent people. How do you help the families recognize early signs, and what are some of the affirming ways you approach them about it?
Yeah, depression, it's scary. We know that neurodivergent people are more likely to self-harm, to attempt suicide, I mean, to end their lives because they feel like it's never going to get better. All their attempts haven't worked. And what happens is looking into the future of just more of that becomes unbearable.
Hmm.
Depression, I would say, and anxiety are the most common mental health things that come up for neurodivergent folks, and understandably so. Some signs that we see, and again, everyone's different, is are there changes in sleep habits? Are there changes in eating? Are there changes in interest? For example, if someone is very excited about a topic and very interested in learning about it or doing a particular activity, and it's not either replaced by a previous interest or a new one, if they just seem to have lost interest in doing things,
Mm.
that can be really hard. So, those are the things that we typically look at. Sometimes it's confusing because a neurodivergent person may want to be alone more. Maybe they need that to recharge, but it might look like depression in a neurotypical person. So then it just gets very confusing. And that's why it's important when you are going to get support that you work with a therapist who has special training, has experience in working with neurodivergent people.
I mean, for those listening, let me give you a great example, and to you, Holly, as well, of what I have, how I dealt with depression, how I figured it out. I used to love playing games on my computer, and all of a sudden one day I was just sitting there sitting at my desk, just going through YouTube videos, feeling kind of low energy, kind of tired and sad and stuff. And then like I couldn't get myself to play any of my games. I'm like, what's going on here? And I go online, I'm like, what are the signs of depression? Lack of interest of doing the things you found joy before, feeling tired and sadness, um, lack of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm depressed. And this was like right after I lost my father. And I said to myself, Dad wouldn't want me to be like this. He would want me to enjoy life, not be depressed all the time. So I just said, I'm gonna stop being like this. I'm gonna get myself out of this funk. and start going back into the things I enjoyed. And then at that moment, all that joy came back because I started doing the things I enjoyed, and I've held that depression at bay. It does come back in every so often when I'm least expect it, when I'm a little tired and I just don't have the energy, but it's not as bad as it was.
Right. And I'm sorry about your father. That's so hard. When anyone experiencing depression, sadness, loss of interest, it's so important to get help. Part of what can be difficult about it is self-awareness is hard in that at that time,
Hmm.
right? And then also people will give you different tips and
Yeah.
advice that may not be a good fit for you. Like, for example, a typical approach for a neurotypical person who is depressed would be the opposite for someone who is autistic.
Hmm.
Burnout is a huge issue
Oh
for
yeah.
neurodivergent people. So there's so much great help out there, but you just have to make sure that it's in line with the way you work and what you need, and that you are heard and understood.
Now let me ask you a question that we talk about that you just mentioned. How do you approach parents when they want to approach Dr. Google for help? What do you tell them that, hey, what Google may show you or whatever you find online it's not going to work for your child?
Right. And I never want to discourage a parent from wanting to learn more, but I think our culture, our society now, right? Well, that's what we do. We go straight
Hmm.
to Google. So when a parent is looking around for information, I always talk about, let's talk about it. Let's figure out what you're hearing, where you're hearing it from, because I did I'll read, it was a million, it must have been 98. I think I did a study on the misinformation about autism online. And so
Hmm.
there was a lot at that point when the internet was still young. Now, of course, there's better information out there now, but there's also more information that is not great.
Hmm.
So I always talk about great to learn. It's amazing to learn more. It is important to hear from autistic people in the community, ADHDers, those with lived experience. That's also really important. And I feel like a lot of parents, when they Google things, that's not what they're typically finding. So that's why I always say, education is always a good thing. And you should always want to learn more and never stop learning, no matter how old you are. But let's just make sure that we filter through what's coming into your brain from what you see online. We can discuss it and then decide what those next steps would be.
All right. Now you have a parenting masterclass and professional trainings are gaining a lot of attention. What are some of your biggest aha moments that parents or therapists tend to have during your sessions?
Oh, that's good. I think the miscommunication part. I think the recognizing that so much anxiety is happening. And when you can shift that lens, it can change everything. That my child's not trying to give me a hard time or, upset me.
Hmm.
No, they are falling apart because they are misunderstood and they are not heard. And then we are all having meltdowns.
Oh yeah.
So let's not continue to do what's not working, right? And take a step back and see all the information instead of just this one little part of it.
Hmm.
I like to use visuals a lot. You can see this giant
Good.
whiteboard behind me. We have whiteboards everywhere in my
Yeah.
offices. One of them is a simple thing. It's a paper towel roll. Read a paper towel roll. And when you look through that roll, you can only see what is within that circle. right? And I sometimes say that, we can only see this part of it. But when you put that paper towel roll down, there's so many other things around it that you just didn't know before. So I ask for openness. And what I find is once parents learn more about why their child is doing what they're doing, it makes more sense. They have the why instead of just filling in the blank
Mhm.
for the child and assuming, because usually that's not correct.
I mean, it's so amazing. I mean, when you say you're showing the parents that when you look for the paper towel roll, all you're seeing is one aspect. But the
Right.
minute you put that down, you're seeing everything else.
Right.
I think the problem is, and I've talked with two of my guests who help parents after they get their child diagnosed, is they don't realize they need help themselves.
We all do. That's how I think of it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you think about it, they think, oh, my journey's over now. My kid's diagnosed. No, you need to start working on yourself now. You need to see the bigger picture. There's more than just your child now. There's your child and then there's you. You need the help to help you get up in the morning, deal with your day and everything else.
I think that is really important, Rita. I'm glad that you mentioned it. I go to therapy every single week. And that's for me, but it's also, I have these different roles like we all do, right? What is it like to be a parent? What is it like to experience your fears and your own concern for your child and support them in the way that they need? And also recognize what's pressure from the world or even your own extended family. I do think it's really important that parents consider that for their own mental health.
I
I
mean,
was I did my undergraduate honors thesis. Actually, I nerd out, as you can tell. This is my jam, which I love. So my so my undergrad honors thesis was on parenting stress levels. And the differences were unbelievable. So on the measures, parents of autistic kids, ADHDers were off the charts. We aren't blaming that child. I think that's the problem, is that might be oh, you need to parent them this way, you need to parent them that way. Well, that shames both the parent and the child. It's not that. It's that we're trying to maneuver this world in a way that isn't built for us. And so many parents are also neurodivergent. They just don't know it,
no. I mean,
right?
that's funny you bring that up because when a parent goes to get their child assessed, it's all of a sudden they realize as the doctor's going through all the traits of their child, in their mind, they're going, oh, oh,
That
oh,
sounds like me.
that sounds like me. And then they have to get tested. I mean, but you also brought up a very valid point is going to therapy used to be taboo to talk about. Now
Yeah.
it's an everyday thing.
Yeah. And thank goodness for that. And I hope that, someone watching or listening right now who's been thinking about it takes that next step
Yeah,
in finding someone that's a good fit for them. There's something beautiful, Reed, I think, about being able to speak with someone who gets you, that's
yeah,
not a family member and that's
yeah.
not a friend, and helps you see things in a different way
Hmm.
and feel heard.
Yeah.
It's so important.
I mean, I remember my mom wanting to talk to somebody and she kept going, I want you to see this person. I want you to see this. I'm like, and I, in my mind, I'm like, no, I want to talk to somebody that knows autism. And that's when I started doing search on life coaching and I emailed a couple of life coaches and then found one and they helped me because they understood. And that's one of the things I want people to realize is if your parents are forcing you to talk to someone, accept that, but tell them you want to talk to somebody that knows about autism.
Exactly. And it's got to be someone who gets you, somebody that you're
Hmm.
comfortable with. I don't think people need one more person to be uncomfortable with.
No,
We have enough of those already.
it's so true. Now you host the Autism ADHD podcast and ADHD TV. What inspired you to launch those, and how has your journey been in terms of reaching a wider audience?
I think it was really scary for me because I am definitely not extroverted. But what I kept coming up over and over again, it's just people need more information, good information, read like yours,
Mhm.
like your podcast. And when they get the opportunity to say yes, yes, when you're listening to somebody and
Mhm.
you're like, oh, they get it, they get it. It is such a beautiful thing. And I was hoping that I could reach more people and have them understand more and have them feel heard. And that was really my goal. And I'm so excited about the podcast. I'm glad that it has helped lots of people, and I hope to continue that. And you mentioned earlier parent masterclasses.
Mhm.
Um, I love to do that and work with parents as well. I think it's just these masterclasses are full of parents who just want to support their kids. They want to learn more. And that's a beautiful thing. And also, I provide continuing education, approved continuing education for therapists as well.
Now let's get real for a minute. For a minute, parenting neurodivergent kids while being neurodivergent yourself, how do you fill your cup up when you're constantly pouring into others?
Oh, that's a good question. Speaking of, one moment, Reed, because I got to get the door because my client is here. I'll be back in just a second.
Okay. All right. You want me to repeat that question for you?
Yes, please. Thank you.
How, when, let's get real, you are a neurodivergent parent yourself, but how do you keep your energy when you are helping others? To paraphrase
That
it.
is a really good question. And one that I'm actually been working a lot on. I feel like I think a lot of people feel this way who are neurodivergent. I have just been moment to moment grinding, 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 right? Just
Mm.
constant, constant. And it's not good for my mental health and definitely not good for my physical health. I've been I've been more gentle with myself, Reed. So I'm catching those should be's, like I mentioned earlier. Like I said, I have do therapy once a week. I am open and understanding with myself about what I need and what I think I'm supposed to want. So the idea of looking at, if you look at Facebook and I see these groups of women and they all go on vacation together, and maybe my first thought is, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like. What's wrong with me? But then, Reed, I say, wait a minute, I actually would not enjoy that. So let's be real. It's like, well, let's be real, Holly. I would want to run. That would be really overwhelming for me. I would feel uncomfortable. So really, again, getting to know myself, what I need, what I don't need is made such a difference for me.
Mhm. And finally, if you could give just one message to newly diagnosed adults who are feeling overwhelmed, what would you say?
First, welcome. All right. Welcome. You are not alone. Reed and I are here for you. It can be overwhelming. I feel like there's a lot of different feelings that come up. I don't know how you felt, Reed. It was this relief. I would say number one is relief. Thank
Mhm.
goodness. This all makes so much sense now. Also, sadness. I felt a lot of sadness. I wanted to go back in time
Mhm.
and hug myself and say, there's nothing wrong with you. You are lovely the way you
Mhm.
are. They are not right about you. They just don't get it. So I think there is working through again that acceptance, that beautiful relief, again, the sadness that can come with
Mhm.
that. Also, the internalized ableism, it's really important to learn more about that. I have a podcast episode if you want to link that as well. There are lots of feelings that come up, but I think just taking it one step at a time and getting to know yourself in some ways for the first time.
And lastly, where can people find out more about you and your work and listen to your show and your masterclass?
Thanks, Reed. I gave you a link. So if
Mhm.
everybody wants to go down below there, I did it in one landing page. So you can kind of see free things, free guides, information on master classes, because that's how my brain works. If I have to skip around to a bunch of links, I cannot do it.
Right.
I'm already lost and off doing something else, maybe even cleaning. Who knows? So it's just everything in that one link is what you need. And just go down there and see what interests you. The Autism ADHD podcast is on there, Autism ADHD TV, continuing ed, master classes, like I said, free resources. So I look forward to getting to know your audience.
And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That was Holly Moses. I'm Reed Miles. And remember, all links are in the link. All links are in will be in the show notes down below. And remember, you're not alone. Thank you, Holly.
Thanks, Reed.